Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my Elite Challenge guide. In this guide, I'll be showing you how you can complete the Aggressive Approach Elite Challenge in GTA Online. Now before we get started on that, if you want to have some more tips about the prep missions and just the overall heist itself, make sure to check out the guide in the Eye in the Sky that will guide you to a playlist of all the heist guides I've done so far, including other Elite Challenges. Now there's going to be a few differences though from the original guide and what approach you should be doing and how you should be preparing for it. Obviously, because the challenge is going to include a total of 80 headshots, having a good weapon with you is going to be of the essence. Now for this reason, we're going to be picking the best gunman that we can possibly get because it will make our life a lot easier. The gunman we're going to be picking is going to be Gustavo. The reason for that is because he has a carbine rifle option, as well as the fact that if you pick him, you also get an SMG with a drum mag giving you 100 rounds in your SMG, which will also be the weapon we're going to be using. For the driver, we're going to be taking Taliana again for the simple reason that we can pick a juggler, as well as the hacker is going to be Avi Swartzman, or if you would really want to, you could also decide to pick Ricky. It really won't matter since we're only going to be picking $150,000 again. Right, so with that set up, it's time to start heading into the finale. The entrance you want to be taking is going to be the main door, and the exit you want to be taking is going to be the staff lobby, with a buyer that will be your low-end buyer. And this time around, you do want to buy a gunman decoy for the simple reason that if you buy a high-end kind of gunman, you will be able to lose a total of 2 stars as you're escaping the casino, which is going to be very vital during this Elite Challenge. Yes, it's going to cost you $30,000, and yes, the Elite Challenge itself is only going to make you 50 extra, but I guess in the end it's more about the challenge than it is about the actual money you're making with it. Because if you complete all 3, you get 350,000, which is not a bad haul for something which most of the time isn't all that difficult. This one though can be a little bit tricky. So heading into the finale itself, and let me point out the obvious right away, yes, I'm playing in the snow at the time of recording, but it shouldn't be affecting any of the routing at all. It's simply going to make my car a little bit more slippery and make it also a little bit more difficult for myself. And the best locations you can be using for this one is going to be either in Vinewood or in La Mesa. Both locations will do you nicely. Personally, I started from La Mesa this time, but both of the locations should take you roughly about a minute to get to the casino, at least during the snowy weather. I'm sure it will be a lot easier and a lot quicker during normal conditions. So once you arrive in the casino, you want to immediately headshot the poor valet that is waiting for you, wondering what the hell is going on. And as you enter the main door and you've seen the cutscene, it's time to get to town. Now personally, I recorded this on console for the primary reason that I had all the Elite Challenges on there done already. Having said that though, I think that it's going to be more difficult to do this on console than it is going to be on PC. On PC, you have a lot more control of your aim, because if you're using assisted aim, you're always going to aim in the middle of the body, meaning that you always have to up your aim before you can even take the shot. So for that reason, I personally found it a lot more comfortable to be using first person mode, something that I don't really do an awful lot because I personally prefer third person because you see a lot more where the enemies are. However, I'm making an exception to this rule because if you use first person combined with your assisted aim, and my personal preference is going to assisted aim full, because if you do use that, you can flick between enemies, which most of the time should be able to help you a little bit. So what you want to do is, if you are an assisted aim and you're playing on console, go in first person and use that, because you're able to aim to the next guy much quicker than you are in third person, and you're also able to have a lot more maneuverability compared to being a third person, which seems to be a lot more clunky. And yes, at this point I should probably also mention that the reinforced gear you're going to be having to use for this is going to be extremely useful, because that way you can just simply focus on the headshots rather than always having to watch wherever your health is going. This Elite Challenge basically comes down to 2 things: speed and headshots. Those are the 2 things that you really need to focus on. Don't stand in the same thing for too long. This is the primary reason why you're using first person, because that way you can quickly go from one target to the other without thinking about it too much. What you also want to be doing is, if you're playing with 2 players, you want to split up from left to right. That way you can cover both sections immediately without just trying to steal each other's kills, which is the thing you definitely want to prevent doing so, because time again is of the essence. In my opinion, the Aggressive Approach Elite Challenge is definitely the most difficult one in terms of time, because losing any time basically eliminates your chance of being able to do this. With that said though, headshots are definitely something that can be difficult to figure out how much you actually have. Unless you want to be someone who is constantly counting how much headshots they have, it really is going to be difficult to figure out. So for that reason, as you can see by the gameplay, I'm basically trying to get every single headshot. Everyone needs to be headshot. I'd rather wait a second or two before taking the shot than you're risking getting a body shot, because really every single headshot is going to count. Now from personal experience, I didn't see an awful lot of difference between normal and hard difficulty, but with that said though, people were saying to me that they noticed the difference themselves between normal and hard in terms of how many enemies there are. So if you are struggling with trying to complete this elite challenge on normal, retrying it on hard difficulty seems to be a good idea. Because speaking from personal experience, on normal difficulty I had a really good run going, but we ended up with being 2 headshots short. Meanwhile on hard difficulty we ended up having 18 headshots more than the requirement. Jumping into the gameplay real quick, if you're going to be the person planting the bombs on the left, you're obviously going to be the first one to be able to walk away. So for that reason, make sure to be the one that is ready to start detonating the bomb. You can find it in your contact list, obviously under D, so make sure to use your left and right D-pad in order to flick between contacts really quickly. Once you're in the vault, it's time to quickly start grabbing the stuff you came for, and then make sure that you don't get more than $150,000, because grabbing more would be a waste of time. And if you are the one that is furthest away, make sure to actually grab a little less than your teammate who is closer by, because that way you'll be able to get out of the vault in time when your teammate does as well. Alright, so when you're exiting the man trap, it's time to start going into first person again, and then start looking into all those enemies that are coming your way. There's going to be quite a few, so again, your reinforced armor will be very useful here, because you can then keep focusing on headshots. Compared to the way we were going downstairs, it's now time to start using the elevator, because there's not going to be an awful lot of enemies on the stairs, and it's significantly slower as well while doing so. Going downstairs, you can also decide to go downwards with the elevator if you wish to do so. However, those 3 extra headshots going down the stairs can be proven to be quite useful. Once you're out of the elevator, you want to quickly make your way through all the hallways again, making sure that you pick up everyone with your headshots, and then also don't waste too much time on, for example, the guy in my gameplay, which was in the locker room. 1 headshot is not really going to be worth it. If anything, you're better off getting those when you're outside. Once you're outside, I prefer to switch to third person, but obviously this is all personal preference. I was trying to shoot the guys at the horse track, but not very much worth the time in my opinion. What you want to be doing instead is just dashing right to the right immediately and start headshotting those cops, because they count as well. So if you're not sure if you have enough headshots, try to farm on the cops a little bit to make sure that you have enough. I personally also like to switch to the carbine rifle here, because you have a lot more range with it, and it's also a very accurate rifle. Keep running and jumping as you're going towards the getaway vehicle, so which in our case was a little bit right across the street as we took a right. What you want to be doing here though is take a little bit of a detour towards those cars, so you can get a few extra headshots as you're moving along. At this point there will also be more cops spawning too, meaning that you'd also get a few extra more headshots as time goes on. It really is worth it that if you notice that you have enough time, that you spent that time getting those few extra headshots, you just make sure that you get those 80, because it would be really sour to have the time but are like 1 or 2 headshots short. Trust me, I speak from experience. So after taking out a few more guys, it's time to start heading into your getaway vehicle and then head down to the sewers again. Now funny enough, thanks to my buddy Draconis, I actually found out a way how you can get to the section of the train even quicker than before. You do have to be careful though if you're trying to get to the train track section, that you don't get spotted by cops who for some bizarre reason have magical powers and know exactly where you are. So if you're losing the cops, make sure to do that somewhat deep inside of the sewers before you head into the train track section. In the case of our successful run, we had to go all the way to the beach, so because of that we drove down the entirety of the sewers, and obviously waiting until the cops would disappear before exiting the sewers as well. Now with that said though, as you can see by now, there's only 3 stars. Now compared to the other elite challenges, you are immediately spotted and cops are on you from the moment you get out of the casino. The other 2, you're basically already losing the wanted level, and I can tell you this much, 5 stars ain't easy to lose, and it's going to take a significant amount of time before you do so. Also, a fair warning, as you can probably tell by the gameplay, the juggler isn't very good in off-roading, so if you're going down the sewers, Don't try to be like me and go like as fast as possible. Be controlled about it. Keep your car in control. The juggler is going to be a very excellent vehicle when you're on the main road again. But during the sewer section, try to be a little bit more calm with the acceleration button, or you end up like me, going all over the place. Now, touching on time for a little bit, for what I could tell is that the cutscene and the loading screens don't seem to be taking up too much of your time, giving you an extra 30 seconds to about a minute that you can add to your own timer. Because the in-game timer at the end of the screen told me that we had 12 minutes and 41 seconds. Meanwhile, on my own timer, I had about 13.5 minutes, so keep that in mind as you're watching your own timer and seeing how much time you have, because those extra few seconds getting headshots could be the difference between completing the Elite Challenge or not. And speaking of timing, because you chose the low-end buyer, this also means that you will have one of 3 locations inside of Los Santos where you have to deliver the loot to. Now, because of this, there's 2 different ways you should get to the buyer. That's either through the train exit that I mentioned before, or the sewer exit. Now, to make life easy, I'm showing on the screen right now where exactly you should be exiting from the sewers in order to get to the location, and where exactly the train exit and the sewer location is as well, because that way you can easily figure out what to do in what situation. But with all that said and with all that done, that was it for this one. Thank you all so very much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed or found it useful, subscribe for more, and I'll see you all later.